Hear now of a man whose name was known on the battlefield and whose disease made him a stranger at every hearth. Naaman was captain of the host of the king of Syria, a commander of courage famed for victory and honor. Yet beneath his breastplate he carried a shame no medal could hide. Scripture sets the scene plainly. Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper. 2 Kings 5:1 KJV. Imagine it, the ache of a leader who must hide his face from men he once commanded, the isolation that comes from a disease that marks you untouchable. Riches, reputation, power, none of it removed the sting of exclusion. This is the quiet disaster of life. To be famous and yet alone, to have influence and still be undone. But in that sorrowful tapestry, God threads a surprising stitch. A captive girl from Israel, taken in war, standing in a foreign house, speaks with the calm courage of one who has seen the Lord's hand. The scripture tells it with simple dignity. And a little maid that waited on her said unto her mistress, If my Lord were with the prophet that is in Samaria, he would recover him of his leprosy. 2 Kings 5:3 KJV. A captive girl, nameless in the record, small in the eyes of kings, gives the seed of deliverance. Her faith is quiet and practical. She points not to ceremony but to a man of God, to the God of her childhood. She does not trumpet herself. She speaks a single humble word that will change a life. Naaman hears. He takes counsel with his king. He journeys to Israel with gifts and grandeur, and he arrives at the doorstep of a prophet he expected to meet with fanfare. But God's ways fashion humility out of pride. Elisha does not receive Naaman personally. He sends a messenger with instructions that wound the commander's dignity. And he sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean. Kings 5:10 KJV. Pride bristles. Expectation smolders into outrage. Naaman turns away, furious at what seems insult, the simplicity of a river rather than the ceremony he had imagined. He had come with chests of silver. He was offered a bath. His servants, the very ones who traveled with him, speak a different word. And his servants came near and spake unto him and said, My father, if the prophet had bid thee do some great thing, wouldest thou not have done it? How much rather then, when he saith to thee, Wash and be clean? 2 Kings 5:13 KJV. It is the small faith of others, a captive girl's witness, the faithful counsel of servants, that calls Naaman to humility. He goes down into the water. He dips himself 7 times in the Jordan, and the shame that marked him falls away like old cloth. And he went down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. And his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. 2 Kings 5:14 KJV. The solution is startlingly simple and profoundly spiritual. Obedience to a humble word brought healing. The miracle was not in grandeur but in submission. Naaman's restored body testified that God can make the simple path the channel of his power. The captive girl's faith, small and unassuming, became the conduit of deliverance for a mighty man. What does God do in such moments? He honors the faith of the overlooked. He uses humility to break the back of pride, and he reveals that healing is often attended by obedience rather than spectacle. God takes the faith of a captive child and raises it into a salvation that nations feel. He shows that spiritual greatness does not always wear crowns, and that those with the least social power can be the truest instruments of divine purpose. Hear the lessons for us. Do not despise small faith. Do not assume that influence must come from a throne. A whispered witness can redirect a life. If you are the captive girl in someone's story, know that your quiet word can be the beginning of deliverance. If you are the hardened heart like Naaman, learn humility. Obey the simple command, even when it wounds your pride. Let obedience open the door for God's healing. God delights to work by unexpected hands. He uses the small and faithful to reach the mighty. He converts humility into healing. And he calls us to a faith that obeys the obvious, the things we would scorn for lack of flair. Let the captive girl, as quiet courage and Naaman's yielded obedience shape your own steps. Speak faith where you can, counsel with wisdom, obey when the path is simple, and watch how God turns the smallest trust into the greatest salvation. Remember the line hidden in the story's fold, "The Lord chooses unlikely instruments." Be the voice that points others to Him. Be the hands that humbly obey. God can and will surprise you by making your smallness the seed of someone else's healing.